Hi, Rich Hoffman here. I enthusiastically support the executive order that President Trump is issuing towards the military-industrial complex. I think it's a great move, a really much-needed move that's been in the making for a long time, and I think I have to offer a few private opinions about it based on my experience. So when I talk to legislators, which is a lot of times, I talk to quite a few here and there, and the number one question they ask me is, how can I help you, Rich? How can we help you out in the aerospace manufacturing world, which is that's a big part of my life. How can we help you? And my statement always back to them is supply chain, supply chain, supply chain, supply chain. One of the biggest problems, and it's been something that's been quietly going on in the background for about 10 years, really got bad latter part of Obama's administration. Trump started to turn around a little bit, but the momentum was already there. Most of the big aerospace manufacturers that have been out there all put their bets on this kind of woke politics of tomorrow. And leading up to 2019 and 2020, that's where everybody was. And that pretty much brought a halt to producibility in that manufacturing sector. And we've seen it everywhere where it's been presented. I mean, you certainly see it in Hollywood. Everywhere, like we say, where you go woke, you go broke. The problem with the military-industrial complex, I like making airplane parts. I like being in the business that makes aviation go. But I do not like the way it evolved as a cost-plus structure, where when you got in trouble with your cost, you had perpetual schedule delays, and then you throw money at it like hostages, always throwing money at perpetual cost increases, cost plus, put a contract out there, you miss your delivery dates, and then you tell everybody upstream and downstream, well, pay this amount of money and you'll get your doohickey. And the problem is when you have complicated supply chains and you're building big planes and big parts and doing things that are important to national security, you've got the government kind of bent over a barrel, and there's so much government money because it comes from taxpayers, and everybody wants their hand in the cookie jar. And I've been told by many people, why aren't you guys rolling around in the dough? Take your fair share like everybody else is taking. Get rich off this process. And my thing is, I can't talk bad about it if I do that. I want to continue to talk bad about it. I want to criticize it. You can't, if you dip your hand in the cookie jar and take the money, you can't criticize it. And I think it's more important to criticize than to have the money. So, in that regard, the answer to the question is why am I not involved in all that cost plus stuff? And I've tried very hard for my part of it to keep it under control and keep it down, keep it manageable, and try to send a message through the rest of the industry that we're not going to play that game. And it's been very important to me. And my part in that process has been to send that signal. So that's why, as far as everybody else in that aerospace business, getting very rich off the excesses and the lack of hard work and effort to have schedule fulfillment and to get things back on target by throwing lots of money at it, cost plus, that's just been a game that I've resented, and more than that, I've hated it. I think it's disgusting. And if everybody just leaves the industry, then you just leave the industry full of people who are just sucking off of it. And it's a military, it's a national security thing, and you want good people to stay in the business. So from my personal point of view, I've tried to set an example to everybody that I deal with, that's everybody's doing this, but I'm going to do that, and it's been something that I've been very angry about for over a decade. So here it comes, and Trump's looking around, and he's looking at all the defense contractors, and they perpetually miss all their targets. And people are wondering, well, why do they miss all the time? Because they're incentivized to miss. Their cost plus contracts make it so that in order to break things loose, you throw money at them. You throw expedite fees. Everybody gets their hand, gets lots of cookies in the cookie jar, and get things on target or back on schedule, or deal with schedule delays, and cost plus taxpayers end up tossing a lot of money at it, or it's fake money, made off modern monetary theory. It gets thrown into it, and everybody's got a gig. All the lawyers got a gig, all the consultants got a gig, and certainly everybody's looting off the government because it's a target-rich environment. You got to have your military stuff, and there's no real oversight. No one's really, all the supply chain up and down, they're all dealing with cost plus. So they all want their maximum profit out of the situation. And the other part of that, when I talk about some of these private equity firms that have caused so much trouble, we talk about price increases, I've seen this up front. It's a real problem. And one of the problems with like supply chains, and this is going on all over the United States, all these privately held companies that could not wait out these ultimately the cost plus customers who just throw infinite amounts of money at these things, well, they can't afford to do that. They have to actually move product. And when you have lots of compliance and it takes a long time to process stuff, they don't have mountains of cash that they can last. So they end up fiscally vulnerable, and then they get bought up by a private equity firm, and then they get traded on the market like a baseball card. And they've lost that personal accountability and management ability. And so they no longer can hold their prices down because they're not in charge anymore. You have a bunch of people who are just looking at the pure profit and not the love of the industry that are driving everything. And so it's a problem. That's a big problem in national security in its own. And I'm really, really happy to see that Trump, he's earned a little brownie points with me again. I've been very, very upset with him, his administration, over the marijuana declassification. That's going to stick in my craw for a long, long time. But this is something that really needed to happen. And when you love the military and you want to make good things out there, and you want to keep sending a message to the world that we have this great military with great military equipment, always looming in the background is the cost plus structure and the way they rape and pillage taxpayers to get large bonuses. They get paid basically to hold inventory hostage and not move it in the supply chain. And so when you have people all up and down from the front of the supply chain to the back, the end-use customer that makes it and then just sells it to the government or whoever is going to buy that equipment, the biggest problem with the whole process is that everybody has learned to loot off the system. That's what everybody's out there telling them to do. And the way to get there is just delay schedule. So nobody's on target. Schedule delays keep happening over and over for perpetual years. Everybody makes a lot of money in the process, and they don't actually accomplish anything. And then that allowed, in the vacuum of all that, to bring in all these woke policies, because they were going to get paid no matter how well they performed. So they threw people at it that really couldn't do the job, and they ended up in a situation where performance was incentivized and paid for anyway, so they could afford to be woke. And when you start putting performance standards to this thing, you can't afford to be woke anymore. You're going to actually have to have people in these industries doing these businesses that actually know how to perform. And when you look around and you talk to people on the phone, like I do, there's not many people out there who can. Most of them are way over the woke rainbow, and they're going to have a transition period. It's going to take them a decade to roll out of. And some of these big companies are going to have a hard time because it's a hard ship to turn the rudder on and steer away from the iceberg that a lot of them have already hit. And to disguise the hole that they're in their hull, their ship, to hide it, they go cost plus, throw money at it for the cost overruns, and that's been allowed to go on for years and years until now Trump's called it out with this executive order. And now you start putting penalties for delays. Now you got a big problem because you're forcing people to work with performance standards that they're not built for because they went woke a decade ago, and now all the people that work for their industry aren't equipped for a performance-based structure because they're woke. They were paid to be inefficient, and they were allowed to do these woke things because everyone was throwing money at it, so performance didn't root it out. And now they're top heavy with wokesters that are bringing their entire industries down because they can't perform under pressure. And they're not going to be able to. There's no quick fix for this. So I'm happy to see it because I've been complaining about it for a long time, many years. And when people say, well, why are you still in the business? Why don't you go make millions of dollars at these things like everybody else is doing? It's like, well, because I don't want to be one of those people. I don't like those people. I've always hated those people. Well, more the merrier. Take your fair share. Run with it. You're perfectly capable of doing that. You're in a position to do it. Why don't you do it? Well, because I hate those kinds of people, and I love to see that they're being called out with this executive order from Trump. So that earns some brownie points back with me. Definitely doesn't help erase the marijuana declassification issue, but that executive order on defense contractors, the military-industrial complex, the wokeisms that is the center of all those push-outs on the cost-plus structures, not having merit, drive performance, not getting that performance to deliver on time, scheduled delivery, and using a cost-plus model to release product that they deliberately stall so they can extort it from taxpayers they think has an infinite well of money to get from Congress. And it's been a rigged game from the very beginning, and it really is smart for Trump to call it out. And I'm very happy with that executive order. Very happy. It is a long time in coming, and I am a big supporter of that approach. And it took a long time to get there, but thank goodness somebody finally called it out, because it is a major problem and a source for a lot of the cost increases that are floating around out there. Because if the military-industrial complex gets away with it, and if you've ever been to that part of Tyson's Corner in Fairfax County, you see the kind of houses all those people live in. It's they're doing better than they deserve to be, because it's not performance-based, it's extortion-based. It's about sandbagging results, and everybody in the supply chain has adapted to it, and that's driven up the price structure. And when you apply those same standards to farming, or to making a rope, or to making a car, that's why you have out-of-control pricing. And it really does start with the industrial complex, because people think, well, you got to have the military. You're not going to get this stuff anywhere else in the world, so I'm going to sandbag my delivery schedule and make you pay me a lot of money to get it back on target, and then we're going to have multi-million-dollar bonuses that we're going to dish out through the extortion process. And it's been a racket that's been undermining the American taxpayer for a long time, and I'm happy to see it get reeled in. Very happy. Very proud to see that that's an action that President Trump was willing to take at a time when it really does matter most. That's the secret sauce behind bringing down, getting prices under control by attacking one of the places where it's most visibly been abused. Go to the Walmart sometime at Tyson's Corner, and you'll see what I'm talking about. The cars, the people in the parking lot. You'll see people who have been promoted through the woke ranks that don't know how to perform. And when you talk to them on the phone, they're completely oblivious. They're on Facebook half the day. They're ordering their lunch at 9 o'clock in the morning. They're disengaged, not performance driven, and they make way too much money off government extortion on this cost plus model. And it's about time to bring it to an end. And I'm very happy to see it come to that. Very happy. Very, very happy. Makes some of the things I've said and some of the positions that I've taken that weren't very popular over the last 15 years, it gives it meaning, and that makes a lot of it worth the discussion. And again, when people say, well, what can we do to help you out, Rich? Executive orders like that are a start, and I hope there's a lot more to come, because there's a lot of abuse there that needs to be reined in, and it takes good people to take a stand against it before it ever happened. Because too many people take the easy money and run and do the early retirement, and don't take the responsible position to police it internally because they want the easy money, and it makes them not very good people. And when a lot of people are the ones that control the industry like that, that's they might be able to buy the big televisions and have new cars and go on fancy vacations, but they, as people, are not good. And, executive orders like this will set an example that is performance driven, that the industry of aerospace desperately needs. And it's about time. Anyway, it's Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you haven't read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, I think you'll love it. Anyway, have a good day. Watch out for cost plus. Anywhere where you see it, eradicate it, because it's a terrible marker of inefficiency and waste that we all have to pay for one way or the other, and it hasn't been good practice. Anyway, have a good day. See you later.